There we go. So I kicked the cable out the microphone when I was under the desk. I need to secure that cable a bit more. Yeah, so I didn't really say much anyway. I was just wrapping up a PlayStation 4. Zach to just swap the lid out on. So it's got that old dirty grey lid. But that just needs, I've all tested it, still works, it's all screwed together. Just needs literally a nice top lid that's clean, chucking on, and that's ready to go to the customer. So we're going to do the PC Engine GT from many streams ago and many streams that it's had. Where we got to was we got game load like once with corrupt graphics, and we're suspecting it was the connector ribbon. So I've got my own one here, or one of them. We've got all these bits to come back out. And let's figure out what we were doing and retest. So the first thing is, I've got my working, game in at help, got my working PC Engine GT. Wow, this is sticky as well. So this is a working PC Engine GT with terrible contrast. There we go. So mine's working, so we know we can use this now as a diagnostics. Yeah, we still fix GBAs. Fix them every day. It's just you won't normally see me working on them. Zach's normally on them. So we have flashcard, game. This is the suspect. We've put a connector on here, but this is very weak. 2 traces tore, just lifting it off, so I'm suspecting this is bad. But I'll use mine to diagnose and swap between. Even this ribbon's sticky. Everything's covered in flux from this. I'm from Stoke-on-Trent in the UK. You and Ben Heck are my favourite. Nice. Yeah, I've seen Ben Heck, he's awesome. I actually, one of the first things I saw him do was he making a giant Game Boy, like a huge Game Boy original. That was before I knew how to do all the FPGA stuff as well. And I watched that and I was like, that's wicked, I want to do that. And then it's probably partly what inspired me to actually build the Game Boy Advance clean screen, is seeing that. And I still never bothered making a large Game Boy or HDMI out yet, but that's on the cards. Right, anything else sticky? This one has been cleaned in the dishwasher now, so let me show you how nice it looks. Oh yeah, that's 60 frames per second is way nicer. So I was streaming at 30 frames a second all month, and then realised I got the settings set to 30. Yeah, so look how clean that is. You're not going to see a spot of anything on this now. Nice and clean, no sticky, just flawless. So chuck your electronics in the dishwasher basically, and then spray them with IPA. And then you're good to go. So the fact that this has been dishwashed and cleaned, and it simply sat on a desk for a few days, we should really retest it, because things like this end up working when you leave them to sit and do nothing, I often find. So it's worth at least trying again and seeing if we get the same issue. Where we left it last time on the stream was pretty much nothing working. So we originally had it booting intermittently, and at the end of the stream I sat there for about 10 minutes just desperately turning it on and off, hoping things were going to change, and nothing did. So let's see if that's still the case. The only positive was we did see it boot a few times, so we know a majority of the system is working in some fashion. Where's the game? So this will go in here, and then how did we power this? I don't have the DC thing on me still. I think we just soldered wires to the power switch, so let's do that, I guess. and then we'll look powered from the bench over here. I really need to find a better position for this bench power supply because I have to lean over and knock everything every time I want to turn the power supply on. Best fix for an Xbox 360 Red Ring of Death. To be honest, as daft as it sounds, I'd probably try and JTAG it if you've got the equipment. You just need a Pico, Raspberry Pi Pico. JTAG to read the PROM check, it's all good. There's quite a few causes. Top of my head, I work more on the Xbox originals at the minute, so I couldn't even give you many potential faults on the 360 off the top of my head. The main thing we do on them is the RGH, and that obviously just replaces all the EEPROM and unlocks everything, so you don't have to have like keyed DVD drives. You could also be getting the ROG from using a DVD drive that isn't paired to the system, and I've tried to rekey them, and all the old tools I've got, all the executor tools and things, they don't work anymore. The software's got viruses in, and it just isn't a good state to play. But they're that cheap, to be honest. Short of JTAGing it and seeing if you can get it work, I'd probably just grab another one unless it's sentimental. Right, so input into here we can now have up to 12 volts, anywhere from 2 to 12 volts, thanks to the clean power on board. So let's put in 5 volts, just so we can do direct bypass if we wanted. And then let's see if we hear audio, I guess. No. So nothing's changed by the sounds of it. So we're in the same position as we were before, where we seem to get random intermittent boot if we were potentially moving this or touching things. So I'm not going to sit here and do the same thing like we did last time, just desperately hope that this works. What I'm going to do is get mine that currently works, and I'm going to make a connector like this from mine. So we can test his connector, and we can also test mine, and then if we have to, we'll start swapping chips between them to find out if one of the chips is faulty. And the only chips that can really be faulty are the 5 on the front there or the 2 here, because every single other chip on this entire board has been tested when we built this, so they're not going to be faulty. Soldering iron station, I use a cheap, it's AIXUN, no, sorry, that's the soldering iron cleaner. Well, everything I've got on my desk is Chinese now. It's YIHUA 982, and then 3 I's after for maybe like 3. But basically, all you want is a C245 soldering iron station clone, and they are clones of the JBC soldering iron kits. So the tips end up being, you can buy real JBC tips and put them in, and the irons, for the most part, do a good enough job. And they're like ridiculously cheap. Like the one I've got on my desk is now £60. I own thousands of pounds worth of irons. I've got Wallers, Hackos, you name it. I've got all the expensive stuff, but I like to try and find good deals. So when people are watching the stream and stuff, I can recommend stuff that isn't like, you know, £1,000 iron. I can actually genuinely use something that's cheap and recommend it as well. Morning, welcome in. Yeah, Xbox Originals, just chuck them in. Yeah, I'm definitely the final boss to this PC Engine. We're going to get this working. I think I should just not go off stream until this is working today, because we've tested everything on this thing. It can only be something simple, and we've got a working one, so I've got no excuse whatsoever now. If I can't fix this, then I shouldn't be in the game, really. But, famous last words, I'll be crying in 2 hours that I can't fix it. Right, so take off this was the cool TV tuners that they had as well. So when you used to be able to tune into TV and audio, they got very high frequency and ultra high frequency switches, on and off, even colour and tint tuning, external antennas, just everything on these things. Unfortunately now all the analog waves for the TV stations no longer broadcast. Obviously you remember all that digital TV switchover thing we had. So that comes off the side. We'll put that to one side. This is my good chips, so not only have we also got other good chips, presumably, we've got the customer's chips as well, so all the chip swapping stuff will save until we have mine tested. We want to use the working one and figure it out, basically. 122 in the US. Welcome in. Are you staying up a few hours or are you off bed soon? This is PC Engine GT handheld console. This one's mine, that fully works. This is a new board I made that replaces the internal green one because they often rot. This one's, I think, completely OG. This one's something I've not worked on. I just brought brand new working. But my remade board, I've done tons of work to remake this board. Obviously, we've sold hundreds and we know they work, so the board isn't going to be the problem. The components on them, we checked everything, and everything was working. The only chips we couldn't test in normal component testers is these four big black chips here and the 2 on the back. So my suspect is them 6 chips, or more than likely, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the game slot that's faulty. If it's the game slot, nice easy fix, but I don't have one spare, so I'm going to have to make this PCB. I'll just give the customer mine and then make this PCB. And I might make the PCB on stream if we want, on the sub-only stream. And that's kind of the point of them streams. I'll show the subs how to make the circuit board, and they'll get to see it firsthand, being designed from nothing as well. And I shall be on a few hours. Hopefully, then, you'll see this thing working. I certainly hope so, because this has had, like, I think we're on, what, 14 plus hours of work? Not because of actually diagnosing, just because I was reverse engineering all the components on this board. So I've spent tons and tons of time identifying every component on this board, but still, it's a long time to be looking at the same thing on your desk. I want it off my desk now. Yeah, I love the huge time differences between East Coast and West Coast. Right then. What's that country that's got 2 time zones in its country? I bet there's a load, but there's one that's pretty common, where you can literally be in the country and, like, not obviously America, I'm talking about like a small country in Europe that you wouldn't expect to have 2 time zones in. Right, so the first thing I want to do is, that's all the front board and working screen, so we don't care about that. This is the, looks like completely stock, no one's worked on this yet, including me. Front board. We have a screw up here. I always forget where the screw is. I think there's just one screw that holds this board in. And is there one more? Or is that just coming out? No, it is just literally that one. So we'll take that connector off. And now inside of here, this is what we want. So we want to get this connector and convert it to a flex ribbon so we can test it in the customers. Amps and things, like all the other products that aren't retro at the minute, we don't work on them because oh, and also, did you notice on these, I've done that many of them that I know it's definitely stock now, but I've just taken them 2 screws out. But have you noticed they all come with this screw missing? So there's a screw, I'm pretty sure there's a screw post there, but I always used to think I'd lost a screw or somebody had worked on it before. But yeah, see, there's 4 screw holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they never installed this one. It's never even been tapped. Don't know why that was. Whether the factory had ran out of screws or found there was a reason or a cause for not screwing that one in. But that was an interesting thing. Yeah, so for anything that's not retro at the minute, we don't take on any extra work just because we're too busy. So things like amps, yes, I can work on them and I have before. But we don't just because too busy, basically, unfortunately. So this ribbon is going to melt when we touch it. So once we commit to this, we're committed. I don't want to melt this because that's the most common thing that gets melted on these. So I ideally want to hot air them off because I don't want to do damage to traces and then we're in the same boat potentially as another one. So what I'm going to do is, I think, properly protect this. Do I have any aluminium tape? let me show you how to use aluminium tape, or at least the way I'd use it properly. So, I've babbled on about this on a few streams before, mentioning most people get aluminium tape. What they do, stick it over the stuff like that. Go, it's protected now from hot air. The hot air that's off, this aluminium tape's just stuck to plastic, warms up, melts the plastic anyway. You don't use aluminium or copper tape as a protective guard like that. You want to use it as a physical barrier. Think of it like a wind blocker on the beach. If you put a wind blocker on your face and sat there, the wind would just blow at that and nothing would, change. You need to stick the tape well before the actual thing you're trying to protect and bend it up. So what you want is like a beach wind guard, like this. So the aluminium doesn't want to make any physical contact with anything that you want to protect. So this now will act as a natural big windbreaker. I can fold it over like this, and that's kind of going to be my proper guard. This you can see, but the hot air is way away from that. And then on top of that, you can either aim towards it, so that you're not going inside. So if you aim from this side and you blow in, you might accidentally go under. So in one way, it's safer to just aim at it. But I just find just aim down naturally. You've got your guard here, and pretend there's no plastic around, basically. So hot air down, and to get this off, this is going to melt as we gain it off because it's not designed really to survive this. We just want to get it off without damaging the circuit board pins, so hot air is the best bet. So extractor fan on, warm this up, and now we should protect all those plastic bits. And you can see there, that's come off clean. This looks like it's just the sticky tape they used. Yeah, it is. So that's just all sticky tape. There's no pins. The pins are all on here, and they've all come off in one piece. This is just sticky tape that was holding the ribbon down, like so. So we can clean that up. And probably while it's nice and warm still, give that a clean, and now we will flux the pins, reflow some solder on, and this will be good for putting a connector on. And that's getting the connector off nice and clean. And then if you take the aluminium tape away, no melty, nice and perfect. So if you do want to protect components and use aluminium tape, that's what you want to do, basically. And you can see that, all nice and clean, ready for a connector. We just got to do the same now on this one. There's not plastic worth protecting here, this is far enough away. So this on the underside is far enough away from heat for how quick this is going to come off that we're not going to melt this. So we can just flux this one and hot air him straight off. and this is a single-sided board, that's why it's yellow on the other side. So this will warm up pretty much twice as quick, if not quicker, because there's nothing at all really to take the heat away from the pins when we're warming up. It's got nowhere to go, so this should come off pretty quick. And bear in mind, this one is the one that can popcorn fairly easy with heat as well, because it's such a thin board. And that's that away cleanly. So you can see the condition of this one I've got is much better than the customer's one. The customer's one was quite ragged and old and got destroyed removing this. Well, not really destroyed, but was clearly very weak when we took it off. So it's just the condition of some boards are better than others, but I would like to just clone this board so we have a brand new cartridge connector as well, because then it's another thing that's brand new. And as you know, when you're doing a whole RePCB, you don't want to then use an old cartridge connector PCB if you can help it. There we go, and that connector at the end is all 3 pins, by the way, there, so that's now not a short there, that is how the pins actually are underneath, because they're all joined. And that's 2 ready for connectors now. So we have this side we need to put a connector on, this side we need to put a connector on, and then we can test the customer's board, see if it works. In one way I hope it doesn't, because then we're on to a solution. If it does, we will see. So connectors now. Searching for the ribbons in the wrong tub. Right, so we have now 2 more ribbon connectors that we can add onto here. Yeah, I think for PC Engine as well it'll be good. I should take a look at it. I think I'll definitely make this front board, it's just what priority we make it at. Hot air, 480 degrees Celsius, 80% airspeed, unless I've mentioned otherwise. For that cartridge board here though, if you're not experienced, I'd lower it down to like 300 and something, because you can easily overheat that board. But if you know what you do, just take the heat off when you know it's warm, kind of thing. So the first thing we really need to do is this one, and then we can test the customer's cartridge connector. So for this, I'd normally place it on here and hot air from underneath to melt all the pins, but just because I've got this wheel on here and I don't want to melt him, and putting heat under here is going to transfer to the bottom of this board and melt this anyway. Because the assembly order, I'm going to solder these pins painstakingly one at a time, which is not my preferred way of soldering the pins. I like my hot air, but we'll do it this way. So we'll line this up roughly like that. Got some flux, and again, I prefer to do this under a microscope, but let's just see how we go. Just using the overhead camera. Now, there we go, one oversized blob just to tack it in place. The same this side. That's a normal size blob, and then that's all flat to the board. So we're good to just go down and solder these pins now. And I think my preferred angle is probably going to be, I don't know, maybe this way. It's a bit weird working under. Nah, I think, to be honest, flat down. Strange not having depth perception when you're working. Oh, actually, no. Keep twisting around. I want to point away from this wheel. I don't want my iron going near that wheel, so I'm going to do it this way. That's what we're going to do. And then get the iron, and you should just be able to pretty much drag solder down. So I'm not going to solder one pin at a time. I'm just going to drag solder all the way down. We might need to apply a bit more solder to the iron as we go. And you can't really tell these are flowing on, to be honest, from the view. Maybe I'll tilt it up a bit. You can't really tell there, they look soldered anyway. So just like magic, this is basically soldering most of them pins on. We just need a bit of extra solder on that, so not very exciting to look at because that kind of just worked and reflowed on. So I don't know, let's check them under the scope. Not very visually changing when you're looking at it. We could possibly do with a bit more, like one more rundown with a bit more solder. Let's just check if these pins are soldered. So solid, solid. Let's get these on here. Solid, solid. All good. Sorted. Yeah, that one just looks almost like it isn't soldered. That's because it's a ground plane, but yeah, it's solid. We could reflow that with flux and go down and make them a bit more round and nice looking, but they're working. That's all I care about for now. They're rock solid, no issues. Yeah, you understand a little, and swapping components, yeah, you can just carry on watching what we're doing as well. You'll pick up loads of tips and tricks. I'm all self-taught, so I'm in no way an expert at what I do. I just know what I'm doing from experience, but you're more than welcome to watch and see what I do. Right, so this is on. Welcome in, Joseph. Same time for you. I didn't even look at the clock this morning. I just woke up and come down, but I felt a bit tired. I was like, I've either come down at 3 o'clock or I'm just a bit tired. And then once I was down and looked at the time, I'm like, nope, just a bit tired. But I think it was just, well, I don't know why. I'm just doing a lot of early nights and late nights, but it doesn't seem to be affecting me that much at the minute. Just a shame it's always dark and wet with winter kicking in. Right, so in theory, we should be able to power this from bench. This is going to have to be higher voltage on the input because it's not got a clean power on. So we're going to have to tack our, let's get some fresh ground and power wires to power from bench. And we'll have to up the voltage to at least 7 volts, but we can go to 9 if we wanted. I'm going to stick with 7 on here, and we'll power this from the bench. So 7-volt. We only care about game audio. We know this one works, so if we hear the game load, we know everything's gone to plan. 7-volt in there. We'll get the customers. So we are hoping that this doesn't work, basically, because if it does, well, I don't know. If it does, it means there's likely chips on the customer's board that are faulty. If it doesn't, we've almost definitely found the problem. Or it could be that putting these connectors on, these are literally connectors I've only just sourced and it's the first time I'm trying them. These connectors might not make good contact with the ribbons. I've just brought random connectors and ribbons off AliExpress. So we shall see. What's the grey chewing gum looking thing? Can't see anything that looks like grey chewing gum. Oh, you mean on the board? I'm looking around on my desk. This is, zoom in, this stuff you mean. It's basically insulation from high voltage. So this is a 1400 volt cap, and it does have 4000 volts at its peak on spikes if it's not loaded down by the backlight. Because the old screens inside of here, there's literally a fluorescent tube like you get in your house. Well, like you used to get in your house, or garages where you have your overhead fluorescent tubes. And they have a little starter in the tube at the side that gets thousands of volts to arc over, and then it lowers voltage. This is exactly the same. This is a super high voltage arc generator in a sense. It generates a big arc between the fluorescent and then lowers down and powers a tube. So these literally have mains voltage fluorescents inside of them, basically. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, if you've got DJ control, yeah, start with the obvious stuff. Start opening it up, looking for blown fuses, physical signs of cap bulges, burns. Spend more time than you think you need looking at it as well. Look at it once, leave it, come back, look at it again, because you can often overlook something that's really obvious, and then you start going down a more complicated route when realistically you've literally just got something that's potentially simple. Right, so that's on. Audio I think we left up. Let's see if this works. Just bear in mind we have, like I say, 4000 volts down here, so I want to be careful on this one. There we go. So the connector is fine, it's not that. So we are likely down to one of these chips being bad. For boot, which is a shame in one way, because that means the chips aren't too expensive, but we can get them off PC engines as well. So do we now? I could do with yeah, I could do with powering up the screen so we can check as we're swapping chips it's fully working, not just partially working, because we also had a graphics glitch on the customers, which means as we're swapping chips blindly, there might be something bad going on the screen that we don't notice until it's too late. So we want to really do a full boot like this. Oh, it helps if you plug the backlight in. So the backlight's this little 2-pin thing here. This is the very high voltage part of the circuit. Plug him in, and now let's see. So there we go. And now we don't really need audio because it's got an internal speaker. So there's the working game. Obviously this is mine working. On the customer's front board, so this is all good. So that's one thing checked off the list. We'll leave that connected. Next, what we want to do is hot swap these over from the customers. Morning, Graham, welcome in. And we want to hopefully identify one of these chips as bad. So we could swap them all, but I'm going to swap them one at a time. This chip on the right is mainly used for audio and video, so I'm going to try and leave that to last because we don't want to melt these wheels. So we'll start with the easy ones over on this side of the board. So we're going to take off my working ones one at a time and swap them with the customers and see if they still work, and then we can mark them. So I'm going to engrave smiley faces on this because these are mine, and when they get swapped around and wiped with IPA, we're not going to notice. So smiley face, smiley face, so we know all them work. The inexpensive controller was the Mamba, or the Mambo. I'm pretty sure it's Mamba, and it's on. You'll find it on Amazon if you type Mamba controller, and it looks like an Xbox controller in white. I literally use it for. Strangely, I use it for my PlayStation 1, like the one I built yesterday. I use it with an 8-bit dough, one of these. So I just use it with a little 8-bit dough receiver, and it pairs up to that fine, and I use it to play the PlayStation, funnily enough. So using an Xbox controller on a PlayStation. Yeah, well, we had a fault from the very beginning. When we first powered it up, it took a few goes, but it seemed to almost be when we put hot air in this area. But this is obviously cartridge connector. These, I think, go to the cartridge connector for data load. So I don't know what I'm suspecting, to be honest, at the minute. I'm just going to prove the only chips left on this board that we know could be faulty. Because after that, they can't be faulty, basically. There's... and to be honest, I'm going to do 2 chips in one. I'm going to go for 2 chip swaps in one, just because I've got to get flux on my nice, super clean whiteboard again now. If we swap one chip and it doesn't work, or it does work, then we swap the other. That's 2 processes. If we swap both and it continues to work, that's 1 process. Whereas if we swap 2 and it works, we've got to take one off to find out which one it is. So either way, if these both work, we've got 1 job to swap 2 chips in one. Whereas if it fails, we've got 2 jobs. So it's basically, if this works, we've saved ourselves one little boot up cycle test, if that makes any sense to anyone. Basically what I'm trying to say is if we swap 2 chips first and they both work, that's a bit quicker than swapping one testing, swapping one testing. Whereas if they fail, we've still got to do 2 chip swaps either way, because we just have to take off one to find out which one was faulty. So we'll take these 2 off first and just keep them on one side. I'm not going to bother putting them on the customers yet. And we have the 7, 6, 8. That's the order we've got to try and remember. Yeah, the 8-bit dough for the Steam Deck. I've got, the way I play, I've got like a ROG Ally X. I play that with X-Real VR glasses. And I play the original Resident Evil 2 on that, and then I've just brought a MetaQuest just to watch Netflix, basically fully immersed, but ended up playing Resident Evil 4 instead. But the only downside is the thing is so damn heavy. There's no way around it. Like, it's heavy as hell. I've got all the Halo headset thing I've brought. I've had a new mask because it knackers your face, but it's still just super heavy. I cannot find a very comfortable way of using it. But it was originally meant for watching Netflix. It's too heavy for that, so I've gone back to the VR glasses. But the fact it's got Resident Evil on, I'm keeping it for that alone. PCB, we're working on a PC Engine GT, a handheld PC Engine. Basically, this is my one. The green one's my one that's fully working. We're using it as a little guinea pig to find out which one of the customers, hopefully, which one of the customers' chips is bad. So there's my PC Engine. This is the customer's board. This is my board. We've swapped every component over from the customer's green board to this new white board, and we had it booting very intermittently. I think probably like 6-7 times, but still with graphics glitches. So every component we've put on here, every single one, every cap, resistor, inductor, transistor we've tested in a component tester, so we know all the components are good except these black chips that we're now swapping over. We've just tested the cartridge connector, which we were suspecting was the fault, and it's not. So basically we're hot swapping between a working board and a non-working board to try and find the fault. And if it's not these chips, then I'm scratching my head at what it could be. But hopefully it's one of these chips. Elite Dangerous. Nice, I'll have a go with that. Yeah, I've still... one thing I love about the Resident Evil is like reloading your gun, you literally grab ammo out your belt physically, it's just ace, and I'll sit there just staring at the gun like this for ages, because it's just like so realistic, I love it. How easy are these chips to source? All depends on consoles, so for the PC Engine, pretty easy because, well, the GT, because all three of these chips are in the PC Engines, which are dirt cheap. Go on any Japanese auction site and you'll get the like the PC Engine's nice and cheap, and you can salvage these from it. But certain ones are obviously more expensive than others. That's off. And now we want to put the customer's chips back onto ours, basically. Oh yeah, you won't be disappointed. I love the controller, it works really good. Yeah, to be honest, attaching some kind of support, well, it looks like we're floating in space. Then when I looked down, it was all white. I was like, what the hell? Yeah, I was honestly tempted to think of something like that, attaching some bloody support to the ceiling, because it's that heavy. I don't know how people use them for a long time, especially this whole productivity thing. People saying they're using them for productivity. I mean, are you fuck coding and that? I do software development. You are not sitting with a Meta Quest on your head and writing code. You'll have brain hemorrhage after half an hour. It's that heavy. Like, I get it for VR games, that's something that, you know, you enjoy, so you're doing it and you're focusing on the game. But if you're sitting doing productivity, all you're going to focus on is the weight of a 10-kilogram elephant on your forehead. We're just going to give these pads some nice fresh leaded solder. Nope. Not that much leaded solder, geez. Give this a clean. Some fresh, is that in focus? Looks ever so slightly out of focus. Fresh flux on here. And let's chuck these down. So it was 7 at the top, 6 at the bottom, I think. 7, 6, 8 we said. So 7 at the top, and was it this way around? I think it was this way around. Check an image online because I always forget. How many of these I do and I still forget what the chip's orientation is. Yeah, 2 Bs at the top and 1 rotated. That's the right way. Worry about the supply of old chips running? Yes and no. As they get lower, we up the prices because they get rarer, and there's a lot of them in the market basically. So some of them, yeah, I used to hoard chips for certain things, but then I ended up with absolutely ridiculous amounts of consoles. So you have to kind of resist the urge to hoard and panic about them running out, and just enjoy them while they exist. And the kind of scarcity is what makes them a bit more, in my eyes, desirable. So I definitely feel the people that want to hoard them and protect them and save them, but I did that and ended up with so many consoles. And then if I've got them, other people can't enjoy them. So I now don't really try to hoard stuff as much, if you will. Oh, sorry, that's getting soldered on like that. I'll fix the bridges when we're done. They don't want to line up very well because of the solder bump, so they're literally going to get soldered down like that. It's close enough for me. The gold in the plastic can't be cleaned. What, in here? It can be, yeah, that's fine, that's flux. Just warm it up and spray some IPA and rub. If that fails, you can chuck it in a dishwasher, if that's what you're meaning. If that's not what you're meaning, I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Yeah, the whole pirate radio stuff and variable resistors, yeah, that's completely standard. I had a neighbour about 15 years ago that literally still had like CB radio stuff, but yeah, when you make the old radios, they're basically a crystal oscillator for the most part. Like the core of the circuit's a crystal oscillator, and you tune the frequency using a variable resistor. Because they're so accurate in terms of you need the resistor to be so accurate on the circuit, temperature can drift resistors unless you get temperature stable resistors, which are more expensive. So that's why it would literally change with temperature. Nowadays you've got different ways of generating frequencies with phase lock loops and other techniques that are obviously a lot more stable than a basic resistor and crystal oscillator. Putting hot wax in it will then probably just block the wiper arm inside the resistor, and that's again likely why it didn't work. I found this the last time on the green one of, I think we were swapping another one on the green. These do not want to naturally pull into position like the other ones. These are like resisting the urge to align correctly. See how that pin they just don't want to align up there at all. See, that pin is stuck, that's what it is. Let's lift this off. That top pin is stuck down on the board. That's why it isn't pulling in. I knew something wasn't naturally moving. Well, I need like 3 hands to do this. That rest on there. Well, this is a pain. That's why it wasn't. It did it last time. It must be a common pin. Let's try that all over again. So I've bent the top left pin up. This pin was catching when I'm trying to align it. Didn't want to move into position. So I've just bent that up out of the way for now, and we'll bend him down when we're done, because that was stopping everything else pulling into position. Game Gear boards we tend to chuck once we've gutted them for all the parts we need, the transformers and the ASICs. I've got literally over 100 Game Gears still in stock, though we have tons of them all the time. But if you're after PCBs for them, you know, you want them so we don't chuck them, you can just ask and I can keep some to one side for you if you want. Yeah, these pins on this chip are terrible. You do not want to self-align. I might have to. I remember this the last time. I'm sure I remember this happening on this green board. Might just have to drag solder the rest of this one, because that should take seconds. You've seen it on the whiteboards. I don't know whether the footprints on these are slightly off, or maybe the pins are bent up, but that should have taken like 15 seconds, and it's taken about 5 minutes. Where we're at with this RePCB, we have confirmed it's still at the same stage of a problem, in a sense. So it still has that problem with boot. This is my working green board, and what we're doing is transferring the customer's chips over to my working green board, the ones we couldn't test in a component tester, to prove if these chips work, basically. I've just had an absolute nightmare of a time getting this chip on. I just didn't want to align at all. So it's literally taken way longer than it should have to get this chip on. But he's on there now. And I think he looks okay. That was just ridiculously harder than it should have been. Just didn't want to pull, like, you know, wasn't naturally pulling into position, basically. So I think for this chip we're going to have to try and align it more accurately, because normally I just rely on the natural surface tension to, you know, align the chips for me, whereas, and this one's of course soldered in itself from the hot air. Yeah, I normally rely on just the chips self-centering. For whatever reason on this board it does not want to do that, so I'm going to have to try and position this nice and accurate. Oh yeah, I think vinyls are coming back as well now, aren't they? There's a whole, like, there's artists releasing their albums on vinyl as well, like fresh press vinyl, so that's definitely having a resurgence as well at the minute. Yeah, see, I got into electronics for basically wanting to, I was doing software for a trailer company, and I wanted to fix the blind spots on Arctics and trailers. So, you know, the massive blind spots, and then they swipe cars off the road and kill people. So I wanted to design a sensor system that would indicate in the cab when there's cars in the blind spots. Seemed like a ridiculously simple thing that nobody had done at the time, and they hadn't. Obviously it's been done now, but that's what I wanted to do. So I tried to learn about detecting objects using ultrasonic sensors and things like that. So I think that's where you get into things. If you've got a genuine reason or passion to want to do something, that's where you learn. Whereas if you just go, oh, I want to do hardware, but you don't know why you want to do it, and you've got no reason or desire that gets you into it, you can still do it, but it's a lot harder to learn because your natural passion isn't there, and your natural direction and goal. You know where you want to go when you've got a passion. You know exactly which avenue you're going to take and what your goal is. Even if you don't know how to do it, you know exactly where you want to go. Whereas if you just want to learn something, and I want to learn this, like say I want to learn piano, just because I want to, but then I've got no song in mind or no desire to learn a certain thing, that's where you start going, where do I learn, what do I do? Whereas if I say I want to learn to play Jurassic Park, I'm not going to say, how do I play piano? I'm going to go, right, how do I play Jurassic Park? What do I need? I need this piano, right, how do I do this? No, you're going to have a focus and an interest in one specific part of that field, and you're going to learn that because you want to, and then after you've learned that very specialist part, you then slowly expand into other areas of that sort of specialist topic, and that's the way I think you'd learn more, basically by having a natural passion for something in the field that you want to learn. Right, this one, as long as the wind doesn't blow it, we should get a nice reflow within like 60 seconds on this. Favourite console growing up was, in order of, I guess, growing up, I had like the Atari STE. Wasn't massively keen on it. I played Chucky Egg on it. It was still enjoyable, but I was a bit young. Then we had like the Master System. I liked Alex the Kid. But the console that stuck with me the most really was Pokemon. So on the original Game Boy, Pokemon Yellow was my one. And then after that I did Blue and Red and Gold. I did Gold in Japanese. So my favourite console first that I ever really discovered was like the Game Boy. And then it went to like desktop consoles. N64 I loved for Zelda, and PS1 I loved for Resident Evil. But the ones that stuck with me the most are basically Pokemon, Resident Evil and Zelda, but specifically just the Zelda on N64, no other. Yeah, these chips do not flow into place. That was perfectly aligned, and I just know from experience that'll be plenty warm enough, and it's just sat there not flowing or pulling into place. So that's something to note on these green boards. Just probably drag solder these chips than hot airing them. You might as well not bother hot airing them. They just don't seem to flow or push down. Right, I've just done that completely by eye, not looking, so I can't see if I've made any shorts. I've just gone off time and what would typically happen reflowing. So now let's actually take a look, because there's probably shorts on this. I wasn't really looking so much. Oh well, they're slanted. Okay, let's fix these with the I mean they're on, but let's do a better job of that. Let's just nudge these into position. These are definitely a pain to solder on the green board. So you just have to excuse the glare on the microscope. That's how I can work with plenty of light. I'm going to nudge these over. Everything's boiling. Nudge that over. And let's hope we don't have to take these off again, because I don't like these green boards. They don't solder well. A little blob there. Oh yeah, that glare is terrible. Can I get less glare somehow? It's one thing with this microscope, it's so reflective and glary. Like, to my eye, mind you, to my eye it's not much different. There we go. Lower and flatter, that's a bit better for me. So we have these pins all fine. I'm sure I saw a little wick of solder down that side, but it might have just been reflective light. Yeah, that's so bad to see. I'll tell you what, move the microscope out of the way. Let's use this one to look for shorts, I think. This one's easier to see the pins, and then I can use the microscope to fix. So yeah, using a Blackmagic overhead camera is better than a microscope for visual. You can actually see what you're doing. See, I can't see though for depth perception there, so I can't tell if the pins are soldered on. I can just I can see them without the reflection though, so I can see bridges better with this. Yes, there's no bridges on there now, I don't believe. But let me just go back under the microscope for my preference to have a look for if any pins are floating, because that's what I can see better with the microscope, with having actual depth perception basically. But yeah, I'd like to get a microscope lens if it's possible that doesn't have this much glare, but to be honest, when I'm looking through it, this is the level of glare I'm seeing with my eyes. It just looks even worse on camera. Yeah, they're all good. Just grind. No, solid. Yep, good. Floating, floating. So we've got 2 floaties. All the others good. So these 2 are literally pissing in the wind. So just touch them down. There we are, solid. Oh, and the last one, also pissing in the wind. That was the leg I lifted up because it kept catching as well, so obviously didn't do a good job of pushing it down. Right then, let's catch up on comments because I haven't looked at any for a while. And then we should be good to test this. Yeah, I don't think CDs are making a comeback, unfortunately. Maybe they will. You never know. Maybe they're just not old enough like vinyl are at the minute. Yeah, I wonder if we could do VR streaming. That'd be quite cool. Work on PSPs? No, unfortunately not. I just don't like them, basically, and most of the faults on them tend to be ones that you can't really fix. Things like the PMIC inside going wrong, or, you know, components that aren't available to rebuy, so you just have to gut other ones, and they're a hell of a lot of work to open and close. What's the difference with the green board and the white board? The green board's original, the white board is one I've designed. It's basically a one-for-one clone, but it's the one I've actually designed and made up. You're getting it everywhere. That was probably a while ago, I don't know what I was getting everywhere. Probably the flux, the pins, the solder. I think we're all good now though. If you want to learn doing this, just sub to YouTube or Twitch, and that's obviously where I'm doing the sub-only streams where I'll be training you how to do stuff like this. I obviously kind of tell you as we're going anyway on here, but yeah, if you want to do that, that'd obviously help the channel as well. The heat won't burn the ICs now. You'd need a lot more heat than we're using to do any damage, like a hell of a lot more. Engineering degree, none. I've got no education in anything. Completely self-taught with everything I do, so diddly squat for education. I'm going to have to hold the scroll bar because chat keeps scrolling up and down. What did I dip the chips in? Flux, I'm presuming you're meaning. The yellow stuff here to help the pins flow and stuff. Or a cleaner with IPA. Chuck some IPA in the sponge and wipe it. I don't think I dipped it in anything else. Pins need to be soldered perfect on the board. They are perfectly on the board as we've seen. Alignment I'm not too fussed about on that one. On the customers you can see the difference in the customer's board versus my board. That's what you're looking at. So, perfectly soldered. Got the flux leaking through the board. I'll clean this board again anyway when we're done. Just get a bit of that up. But yeah, the green board I'm not too fussed about. Visuals and aesthetics is my board. But yeah, customers, you're talking about basically factory finish, I'd like to say. So that's the level of finish when we're dealing with the customers. I just not that fussed about mine, basically. I'm also not one that would normally bother. I'm not that bothered about aesthetics. If it functions, it functions, and if the solder joint's good, that's better than aesthetically looking nice, but you're risking more damage or doing other things. I'm all just about the functionality side of it, with a little bit of niceness. Nearly getting through the comments now. Yeah, the green PCB, it's not that the board isn't capable. I don't know whether it's the pins or if there's a bow in the board or underneath, but it just did not want to pull into position like a modern board. GameCube's your favourite. We've just built 2 up. They're still behind me, so I can probably swing you the camera around. And they'll be on the desk if you can maybe see them. So there's a clear purple GameCube we built, fully loaded, and there's a spice orange. So they're literally maxed out with everything. They'll get finished up and wrapped up today. Yeah, Stokey, born and bred. Why am I using so much? Well, I presume that comment then was on about the flux, because you can't have too much flux. Helps everything flow. Stops dry joints. What time do I start work? Normally about 5, half 5, and then I'll come on stream shortly after. We are working on a PC Engine GT, so this is a handheld retro console, similar to like a Game Boy or a Game Gear. We're fixing up our customers. This is the customers we're trying to finish off now. Ah, yeah, we go. That's Rusty's favourite walk, walking the Creme. He still goes there today. Loves it, absolutely loves it. Right, I think we are. Is this a trade? I don't know. I'm all self-taught, so probably like some kind of electronics engineers thing, maybe. Or I genuinely don't know. I'm not educated in any way, so I couldn't even advise you what things you'd maybe have to ask for to learn. But I can teach you. If you sub to the channel, I do sub-only streams where I teach you how to do this as well. So you could do that as well, I guess. Yeah, late comment. Hope solving the originals back on your green board after the testing goes smoother. Definitely, I'm keeping them chips on this board. I'm not taking them off again. So let's hope this works, because I don't want to take these chips off the green board again. That was not pleasant. To be honest, I'll probably drag solder them back on than hot air. Now I know the pain of that. Just I remember doing it. I don't know whether I grabbed another green board from somewhere. But I've got memories of doing this recently on a green board and it being as painful. So it's just something about because it's not going to pull into position naturally. It makes the whole hot air, like the way I work with hot air, I rely on the surface tension doing the work for me. And when that doesn't work, then the process is a bit more painful to watch. Right, so we've got the 7 volts going into the green board, which is right. Speaker. So we want to, I don't know, we either want to hear, oh, my speaker's died. So I charge the speaker now, I'm going to have to nick Zach's. Or can I use this while it's, I don't know if I can use this while it's plugged in. Yeah, the board design stuff we could technically probably do. There we go, that's working. We could do as one of the first videos, I could clone this PCB. Super simple, nice, 1-layer PCB. Like, I might do that as the first live-only stream. Right, so those 2 chips are good. Let's plug in the screen. Let's make sure it's fully working. I can see all these chips working and are scratching ahead at what the hell's wrong with this white board at this rate. But let's hope we don't get that far. There we go, so still fully working. Let's just check there's no graphics glitches. Yeah, all looks good. So, I think we will swap out next. See, so that was worth doing 2 chips on one, because they were working. So now we've got these 2 chips left, which I'm going to leave because they're all by the plastic. Let's do these 2 chips on the back. But the only thing is, I'm pretty sure I swapped these 2 chips on the back from the other board. So I'm kind of I'm doubting it's going to be them, but we'll see. We're best just sticking to our guns and going through it. Right, let's mark these other chips as working as well while we're on here, because now we know everything on this board works. Let us go to the customer's chips now, which can stay on my board. I don't mind keeping the customer's, and I'm sure he doesn't mind keeping mine, because my board, oh, that was grinding the one that isn't on camera. Look at that. That's a worried face. That's not a happy face. That's a, oh shit, I'm on a board I shouldn't be on face. Yeah, my chips are in better state than the customers, so I think he'd be getting a... These 2 are definitely worried. These are working, but they're unsure of themselves. So we have... These 2 we haven't swapped. And obviously these 2 we're about to swap. So let's swap these 2 over. And... yeah, that's good. If I turn this around, that doesn't get in my way. There we go. So I'm going to go for, hopefully, a quicker hot swap this time. I'm just going to orient the boards side by side. I'm going to hot air off the white board onto the green board. So I'm going to take the green ones off first. And then we will hot air them straight over off the white one, and hopefully these being nice big SMD legs with plenty of gap, we should be able to get these off and back on much cleaner and easier. There's the gobble. Oh yeah, it's definitely an aesthetic with 8-bit audio. So we should try and find a Spotify playlist with proper retro sounds and music. I wouldn't play it on stream though, because you guys said when I started trying with, like, if you wanted background music, you guys prefer to put your own music on and just have the ASMR kind of stream, but I could put headphones in and listen to some music. Can I teach you Kirchhoff's laws? Maybe, maybe not. I'm all self-taught again, so no book smarts whatsoever. I could read up and see what it is and then probably explain to you what it means based on what I already know, but in terms of terminologies, probably not. Not off the top of my head, because I've got, like I say, absolutely zero education. Right, the only thing here is I need to remember which chips I'm taking off and which orientation they went in, because I wasn't even looking. So that goes that way, that goes that way. Right, so now I'm just going to hot air it off the white one. I'm not going to move the camera over for the sake of just quickly hot airing the white one off. I'll just bring it over in a second. Morning, Aaron, welcome in. So that should be close enough to now knock this in position. This, like I say, should reflow fairly easily with hot air. It's not as fine pitched as the other chips, so we shouldn't have any issues here. There you go, it's even pulled into position. Push down, reflow. So that's how it should go. New school happy hardcore Pac-Man. Yeah, I'll have to chuck that on and see what it's like. Right, this one needs to come off the whiteboard still. I prefer looking under a microscope in terms of I've got depth perception, but I've kind of been spoilt by the fact that this overhead Blackmagic camera is insanely clear. It's clearer than my microscope, there's just no depth perception, so maybe 2 Blackmagic cameras above and a VR set of glasses on, and you guys could look at a 2D stream or a VR stream, and I could look at a 3D stream through glasses. That would be pretty nuts. But no, I think I've been spoilt by the fact that this overhead camera's that good, and because I want to show you guys what's actually happening on stream, I've trained myself to get used to this kind of looking at a delayed stream and soldering with no depth perception. So I've kind of got used to this, but with such a nice clear image that when I look under the microscope now it looks almost blurry and very reflective and stuff like that. So it's made me want to try and find a better microscope as well, maybe like a Sony or something, see if like more of the big guys in terms of optics. I just don't want to waste my money on a brand name microscope, which I've done in the past. Not Sony, but you know, I've done it with other brands and they've not been in fact, the cheaper ones have been better. So it's like I don't want to risk wasting money on something that might be worse than the cheap ones I've got. Right, so let's clean up the boards. So the white one at the minute, obviously, we're going to have to retransplant stuff back on in a minute, otherwise there's going to be a lot missing. Yeah, let's not transplant it on yet in case one of these is a fault. I'm going to put them up there. But to be honest, I'm losing hope that it's going to be these chips, and then I don't know where we go. I've got no game plan after that. Because that leaves intermittent fault of a component we've previously tested, which could be anywhere, or a lot of oscilloscope probing, or it's not a nice thing if these chips aren't faulty. We're down to the nitty gritty of literally oscilloscope probing and figuring out the boot cycle of what I'm going to have to do at that stage is fully reverse engineer the PC Engine GT, how it boots up, how the CPU and ASICs work, the things I've done on the other consoles. I'm just not in the mood for that at the minute. I don't want to have to go that deep if we have to. Bottle of water. I don't know why that's a popular phrase. Every time you hear it on skits, nobody ever sounds like that saying it, other than maybe a Scouse or a Liverpudlian would sound like you think it sounds for most other accents, but I think water's the main thing. Like, the difference in saying water, like I've said before, I can never order water in America. They can't understand water. You try to say it in an American accent and they don't understand that. There's like H2O then. Give me H2O. Can I fix metal detectors? Not worked on them. Probably can though, but it's something we don't take on at the minute just due to how busy we are with everything else. Do I still have the Porsche Boxster? No, I went through every Porsche and then moved to Teslas, then moved to Lambos, then moved to Bentleys, and then I've gone back to Fords. So I've gone through all the cars. I love the cars. So I had the Boxster. I think the Boxster was me. No. Which way did it go? I got the Missus a Macan GT4, I think it was, for less than 2 weeks. It wasn't fast enough, so I had to sell that and get the turbo. I never liked Porsches. Just weren't my thing. Didn't like any of them. And then when I went to buy the Macan for the missus, I saw what I now know is the Cayman, which is basically a hard top Boxster. I saw it was like already sold. Some dude had it specced out in like lime green with all the extras, and I loved the look of that. And I was trying to convince them to sell it to me, but it had already been made for a customer and sold. So I went back a few weeks later and brought a black Cayman, I think it was, for me. Then I went from the Cayman, the missus went from the Macan GT4 to the Turbo. I went from the Cayman to, I think I went straight to the, I was going to get the GT3 RS or GT4 RS, can't remember, and the guy who I said I know at Porsche that's, really friendly and helped us out and everything, he said if I wasn't going to race on a track, which I had no intentions of, don't go for the GT, go for just the 911 Turbo S. So I got a 911 Turbo S specced out with everything, the aero kits, the upgrades, custom Yalla dials, Yalla seat belts, you name it. I maxed the thing out. Enjoyed that. Brought a Lambo Huracan, I think it was, for the missus. That is ridiculous. You can't drive it on the roads. Go sideways around roundabouts, but you can't drive it on the roads. Too many potholes. So that lasted 3 or 4 months sitting on the drive, barely getting driven. And then I went to Teslas. I loved the Teslas, but they are boring as hell to look at for me. So it felt like an old man car. I loved the inside, I loved the speed, but it was just boring, like plain and simple. I looked at that car and had no enthusiasm for the visuals of it. So then I sold the Teslas and brought a Bentley, and then I brought, you can tell I like cars, I've got tons. I then I've just brought a Ford GT 5 litre, just for the noise. I've got a lot of cars and not of them make much noise. Yeah, still working. Yeah, so I brought a lot of cars and not of them made much growl, like your classic V8 growl. That's what I wanted, so I brought the Ford GT. So I've got 2 Fords, think 2 Fords and a Bentley at the moment, that's all I've got. But yeah, I've wasted so much money on cars, you wouldn't believe. I've done it since I was a kid. Like, literally, I saved up for a house and then brought a car instead of a house. That's what I'm like in terms of how much I liked my cars. I've settled down a bit now with them. I'm not as crazy on the cars. I still like them, but you know, I used to like love changing cars. It was pretty much what I spent all my money on. I didn't do anything else with the money really, so that was my vice. Right, we know the audio works. Let's check the screen. Oh yeah, I keep saying I don't know why I keep using the speaker, because we've got the speaker built in. So that's still working. So this is not looking good for it being a component failure, unfortunately. We are working on a PC Engine GT for a customer. So this is my working board. We're just swapping chips over to prove if chips are good or not. And because the only thing really left is the chips not being good. But unfortunately, at the minute, all the chips are looking good. What's the longest I've worked on something? Probably either that Mac SE, an Apple Mac SE, because I knew nothing about it. But that didn't take that long, to be honest. It took not that long. The longest is probably a Sega Megatech, an arcade machine. I reverse engineered a ton of it, and all that information's on retro6.wiki for everything I learnt about that system. That's probably the longest one. Right, I'm going to transplant the chips back onto this whiteboard first before we end up with too many missing chips. VR, would AR be better? For this, yes and no. I'm thinking more about just having depth perception. But AR might be, yeah, if it's like you can look at exactly where you are but it be zoomed in and stuff, so yeah, that might be a thing. I've never heard of that one. V10 5-litre twin turbo. What's that? A Phaeton? Is that how you pronounce that? I looked at the irony was when I looked at cars, I totally forgot. But years before I actually ended up buying the Bentley, I must have brought the Teslas or something else. But I'd got photos on my phone years before that I'd never even realised after, and we'd gone and test drove one, like the exact one I ended up buying, pretty much, but obviously a newer model. And I don't recall ever going to look at it, but I think back then it was too expensive. Like, I think that's why we went with like the Teslas, because the Bentleys are obviously ridiculous price. But yeah, I'd test driven a blue one and don't recall doing it. That's how many cars I used to like look at and want and change all the time. But the thing is now that the only problem, as I said, there's no real, not that it's a problem, it saved me money, but there's no real place to go after that. You've got I don't think there's not many Ferraris that do anything for me. I've not had a Ferrari, but they don't really do much for me. I think they're a bit plain looking. Rolls Royce I think are more old school than Bentley, so I think I prefer Bentley anyway. And then I'm never going to waste money. Well, I say never, you always say that. I don't really have the money to waste on any cars higher than that anyway. But I think now I've got older, I don't like wasting money as much, so I don't think I'd ever waste that kind of money again on cars. So I think, like, I don't know, I think it's just maturity a bit. I've spent many years of my life spending tons of money on cars, and now I just look at it as I could do other things with that money. What I always used to say, I'd never be like, or I'd never do, is if you like something, spend your money on it. But I do think now I'd prefer to spend my money on other things than the cars. I've had all the cars, I've had everything, like, niceness wise, I've had everything I could want, and now I don't think I'd ever buy cars of that level again. Like, the newest car was a Ford GT, so it was only like 50-60 grand or something like that, so not crazy expensive, and I enjoy that just as much as every other car. That's probably the main one I drive now, a Ford GT. So I can't see me going back up the ladder with cars. I think if anything I'd go back down the ladder. I've had all my fun with them, but it's been worth it. I've loved them, and I do love a nice car and nice sounds, but I'm older now, so I need to be more sensible with my money. The only thing I'm thinking as well, actually, doing this, we had a problem on the regulator circuit here. I wonder if we put a clean power on mine to prove. I mean, I've done it before, though. This is the only thing. I have swapped these regulators multiple times and never had issues. I'm just thinking that the power-up circuit, I haven't really fully looked at every part of it, and I'm wondering whether something about the power-up circuit, if some part of that circuit's failing, not necessarily the output here, but some other part here is failing, would that stop boot? That's what I'm suspecting here. So it might be worth maybe putting a 5-volt rail on ours. Not yet, but that's something we could potentially look at. We are building a PC Engine GT. Well, we've got them built. I'm just trying to figure out a problem. PC Engine GT. We've got mine that's working over here, and we've got the customers here that we can't quite get working on one of my new circuit boards. I'm hoping it's not going to be something simple like a revision difference in. I can't imagine it because this has got all the chips on. But I know there's a revision difference between certain versions where you have to sometimes just pull a single resistor high or something stupid like that. I'm hoping that's not a cause here. But we have had it booting randomly a few times, so let me just double check the customer's board. Did I chuck the customer's green board? I don't recall doing that. I wouldn't normally chuck a board. I can't find his board. I mean, the board was knackered, but I'd have to look back on a stream. What I was going to do is just check what version it was, see if it like matched this exact version. I'm wondering whether you know, there's some slight differences because there's different revisions of PCB, and I'm wondering whether it's like a PCB revision issue, to be honest. That was just a quick thought. So let's just chuck these chips back on as well. So this should reflow nice and easy because it's my board, so we know this has flown on quite easy. DeLorean, I know, funny enough, I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. I'm just trying to think of... yeah, I think I can. So I'm just trying to think of something else. 1 second. Had a quick idea. No, won't be that. Cool. Yeah, so on DeLorean, I actually know, not personally, but I know Jason Bradbury off the Gadget Show. I've had a few conversations with him and sent him some stuff. He's got a DeLorean, he loves DeLorean. Don't know whether it's the original or remake, but yeah, he's absolutely DeLorean fanatic. Don't really do anything for me. I wasn't into the DeLorean and Back to the Future and all that as a kid, really. I didn't really take to that film as much. There we go. That should be close enough for our board. This should flow into position. Motorbike, I'd probably kill myself. I love the sound of motorbikes. I'd love to work on them and fix them up and stuff. But yeah, I think if I got a motorbike, I'd end up killing myself. And plus, we know plenty of people in a close family circle that have been paralysed driving them and coming off them, hitting curbs, other people hitting them. Like I can count probably almost on 2 hands how many people we know that are literally paralysed for life from it. So, and I'd 100% end up doing that. Hey, welcome in. We are back on this PC Engine GT, not having much luck. We've almost proven every single chip on the customer's board, including the cartridge connector, so it's not looking good for us at the minute. It's looking like we might have some other random or rarer faults that I've got no thoughts of where we go from here at the minute. If it's not the last two chips on the board, I'm going to have to probably do oscilloscope probing and a hell of a lot of reverse engineering, which is not ideal. That's going to take a lot of time. No, still can't get to beat the game. We've now swapped the 6270, the 6260, the two RAMs on the back, the only thing left we have, and the cartridge connector. All of those work in my board, and literally the only thing we've got left to swap over now is the RAM here and the audio video chip there. But if it's the audio video chip, this will be the VDP. So I did swap this over from some loose chips I had in a box, but we could never really test it because we weren't testing a full console boot, so we didn't know whether the ones I'd put on are definitely working. That's the other problem. Whereas now we're swapping them over and booting a console up fully, so we know with absolute certainty these fully work. So this is the true test, really, that the chips work. But so far everything's working, unfortunately, in our console. So there's no issues as of yet, and we've got two chips left, and then we've got to sit back and think what we do next. Oh yeah, the little beat says in it. Yeah, I think NEC obviously, NEC either makes the console, but I think, like you said, I think they did work with Hudson on making the chips as well. But yeah, the console has NEC on the lens for the English ones and the Japanese ones. This looks like it written on the glass lens, well, on the plastic lens in this case. PC Engine harder to repair? Yes and no. I don't get many with faults that are like this for a start. It's normally trace rot. So the main issue on PC Engine GTs is typically bad traces, rotten caps, blown fuses, these transformers dying because they're under all that grime. So normally it's like pretty obvious faults, if you know what I mean. You don't have to dig deep. After that, there's very rarely anything else. There's the power circuit, which we've replaced with the clean power in this case. So most of the faults are, quite frankly, not really difficult. It's mainly just obvious damage. Whereas this one, now it's faulty, it shouldn't be that hard to figure out, but like everything, until we've reverse engineered the boot cycle and stuff, and a bit more details about what goes on, then you're flying in the dark. But I don't think they would be difficult to diagnose because they're fairly simple circuit. You've got 3 chips, so there's a bit more to it, but there's not that many pins. One's a CPU. I think this one was an audio and video, and I can't remember what the other one was, but there's 3 main chips. There is the main issue with the GT is the lack of schematics, because obviously when you're just looking at chips everywhere, you've got no idea where it's going. If you've got a good schematic, you can figure out a lot more quite easy. Oh yeah, there's quite a lot of people that do the RePCBs like we've done. Some of them are accurate, some of them are not. But yeah, it's mainly like we've made this PCB. We want mainly the schematic, which is what I'll work on next on this. So that's all of the chips put back on mine. Sorry, back on the customers. Let's just double check. Now we've done this, that the pins look good. Let's use this camera. So a bit painstaking, but just want to make sure when we're hot swapping chips back on, we don't end up with an issue that wasn't there before. And we're just pushing these legs to make sure they don't move, so we know they're soldered, and also looking for any shorts at the same time, any pins that are joined together. All good. Yeah. Can't remember whether we did up this side. Let's just do up this side again in case we didn't. Huh, IC 701. Same IC number as the PS1 we did yesterday. That's coincidence. Going cross-eyed, staring at this and forgetting to blink. Is that Super Bomberman cartridge? No, I've probably got a Super Bomberman. This is obviously PC Engine GT PCB, but the games we were playing is, I think it's called Super Dodgeball, a Japanese game. Right, so I can still solder, that's fine. So they are back on, we've put them back on for the customer, they're on there. Shall we just power this back up again, just in blind hope that something's changed from doing nothing different? Who's that famous guy that said that's the definition of insanity? Repeating the exact same action, expecting different outcomes. It's pretty much, I'd say that's hope, not insanity. Or was it desperation? It's one of them. See, I should have just powered it up on that stream, cut it off, told you it worked, and told the customer it was knackered, and I wouldn't have to fix anything. That would have been the easy route out. Right, so, speaker on, back in. Yeah, X station's all done. I did it on the start of the stream, so all built up. I've just got to change. All I've done is left the lid loose, so this isn't on. That just comes off. But X station's all in there, all working, booted up. So yeah, just leave that on there. I've got to get an English power supply and a new lid. So I've passed that one off to Zach to just go and find out of stock now. Swap the lid over with a nice clean one, and that's all done. But yeah, all worked perfect. Right, that on there. 7 volts is fine because it's got the clean power on, and You know what? One thing we haven't checked is what is the power draw? Oh, what is the power draw on our PC Engine? Now we've got one here. Out of curiosity. Because that might give us a hint if things are well, it will give us a hint, pretty accurate one. Other than the fact the power circuit is reconfigured, yeah, pretty much identical on the power. So short of a little bit of power difference. See now, what happens is it goes to 190 quite distinctively, waits for a second and then jumps up to 240, but this has got the original backlight driver, so that's probably the difference in power there. So power draw seems pretty similar. Alright, so no difference on this. We are down to this work RAM, or whatever RAM this is, and this chip here. So that's going to be next, I think. That's what we're going to have to do in a minute. Hey, welcome in. Let me just catch up on this chat. There's a few chats. There's a smiley face on that chip. Yeah, I drew them on. So there's also a scared face on one of them. I've said I put smiley faces on the working chips, but then these customer ones are transferred over, and I don't know what happened, but I'd say they're more nervous than happy. I think they know they work, and they know they might be in danger of getting removed again. So they're kind of a worried face to me. So we've got to swap this RAM over. I don't know whether can anyone remember if they watched the other stream, if we even swapped this RAM over, because I know we swapped a few over. I've got a feeling we swapped them over and we never swapped that one over yet, so maybe there's hope there. There's a Ford Corsair Crayon Ford Cray Ford in a garage around the corner from me. Nice. Yeah, that is incredibly rare. Big transformer that's needed for the backlight, because this is a real fluorescent tube. So a main, like in your garage where you'd have a fluorescent tube with the little starters in. These have got actual fluorescent tubes in, same as the Game Gear. So this generates like 2,000 to 3,000 volts, arcs over on the fluorescent tube and then lowers down to 200 volts. Also burns the living shit out your finger if you touch it by mistake, because it pumps that voltage in and literally blacks your finger in seconds. Yeah, so hopefully the RAM we haven't swapped yet. I could swap the clean power. I'm going to do the RAM first because I've done the clean power that many times on other repairs. I know they work. It's just more of maybe there's an edge case here for why. The fact that the power circuit doesn't work might be a hint that even though all the chips on it work, the only thing we couldn't test though was, funnily enough, one of the... Literally we've got 3 transistors on this entire board we couldn't test, and one of them's on the power rail. So maybe that transistor's bad. We could always swap it from my working one that works onto this customer's and try to restore the original power circuit on the customer's, but let's leave that for now until we've done what we originally had a plan to do, which is to put these RAMs over. So let's just stick to our guns first and prove everything. For soldering, I used to prefer the microscope, but I've got that used to this stream now, and just looking over the top and zooming in, I actually prefer this view now. Strangely, I need the depth perception is the only thing that you can't tell up and down height wise where you are, basically. What are we fixing? The PC Engine GT. Next hairstyle. To be honest, I've had this for a while. It's just growing out a bit now, so I've gone a bit more modern. It used to be spiky everywhere, and I've gone a little bit more with the times now, and I kind of have the sides shaved and tapered, almost like, you know, a mohawk in a sense. But I've kind of stabilised that as well with the hair. Maybe just put some colour back in, maybe have some blonde back in. But yeah, my hair's kind of gone through. It's gone from the 90s and noughties all the way through to 2025, and I'm sure at some point my hairstyle's going to come back into fashion. Whereas right now it's an outdated hairstyle, but I'll tell you now it's going to come back around, and I've rid it from when it was popular right the way through to when it comes back into popularity. The RAM, they should all be the same. They're quite faded, but the RAM speeds, they're normally okay for 150 nanoseconds, so they normally overspec them, and almost always interchangeable between boards. So let's take the RAM off the green one first, and then we'll take the RAM off the white one and put it straight back over. Xbox One S not turning on. Check retro6.wiki. There's a few bits of info on the power up circuit and what can cause it to not boot. RePCB, unfortunately we don't work on anything not on the website at the minute, just due to how busy we are. You're best jumping on Discord, the link in the chat there, and asking there. We've got 8,000 members on there, and somebody should be able to help you out on that. Tablet behind me looks nice. It's a Asus something monitor, 15-inch maybe. It's a secondary monitor, so I can bring it up on stream. So I've just got TikTok Live open on it at the minute, just to make sure the stream isn't booted, which is a fairly common occurrence. You can see when we're not booted, we've got like 150 people in. Sometimes get up to 500. But the stream, literally every other TikTok stream, it just stops boosting and says we're selling stuff, and then it limits the viewers to like 10. So when it works, it's 8, and we've got loads of viewers on there. But so often it just blocks, and then you're streaming to nobody basically. So if you're on TikTok, you're honestly best sharing the lives, because very often they prevent whatever they say on when it bans and stops you. It says, you know, restricted in the search and won't be recommended and stuff. So I'm going to just put this RAM chip back onto the white one while we're here. It would definitely help if you shared the stream out as well. Does the Atari Lynx have a fluorescent tube? Yes, it does. So the Game Gear has one. The Atari Lynx, you got me thinking now. I've got one up there. Yeah, the Atari Lynx. I'm looking at one. The Atari Lynx has one. The PC Engine, pretty much to be honest, every handheld with a backlight from the 90s was a fluorescent tube. They didn't have LED backlights back then, so that was the standard. And yeah, that was the main power hog. So when I made the clean screen for the Game Gear, the Game Gears last 24 hours if you put a clean screen in and a clean juice and have it on sensible brightness, because the main power draw of the Game Gears was the backlight, like the fluorescent tube. The console itself isn't that power hungry, it's the actual fluorescent tube that is. Right, so customers got this one. We might also have to, where did I just see some thing to clean up there? We might have to do an RGB mod on my fully working one, or at least bare minimum do the same kind of mod by, you know, removing this transistor and bridging. Just simple things that aren't that big of a problem. Do that to just make sure these boards match perfectly if we continue to have issues. That's kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel though for ideas. I can't see it being that, but fingers crossed this now has broken mine. This is currently the most likely suspect short of the remaining VDP. We are rapidly running out of potential causes for this. So let's hope. When have we ever hoped that it doesn't work? We're normally hoping it does work. Let's hope this doesn't work. Alright, might as well go for the whole proper boot up with everything on. Otherwise just turn it on, turn it off, plug everything back in, turn it on a second time. Let's just go for the complete boot. Here we go. Oh, no boot. Now, is it teasing us, and is this going to work if I just turn on and off? Hey, we fucked it. Perfect. That's what we wanted. Dead. So either I've screwed my soldering up. Oh, you bitch. Or is that the intermittent boot? No. Well, is that a good sign or not? Because that's what this other one did. The other one failed to boot a few times and then started booting. So is that really bad luck and coincidence? Or did we just witness what the other one was doing that didn't boot, and then just once it booted we couldn't get it? Yes, it's not booting again. There you go. That's the audio noise. I think we're on to a winner. I take it back, you're not a bitch. You're a lovely, lovely chip. Thank you. Right then. Work RAM. And it's already on the board. I already put it on the board. Let's go. So is this going to boot? And you know that's where we stopped on the last stream. We swapped, I believe, this RAM, these two chips, and we went, oh, sorry, we'll do something else. I've got a feeling that was literally the next suspect, and we stopped right there. Right down. And you just know this isn't going to work now. We've got two screwed consoles. That's the way this will go. Audio on. In. What are we thinking? Yes, no. I'm going to be miserable if it doesn't work. One ASIC, yeah. One ASIC better than the two ASIC. Mainly just because of the age. So one ASICs and newer. So they're much less likely to fail. So far on the 1A6, on the RePCB prototypes I've had zero failure. Everyone's worked. Obviously I haven't done as many as the 2ASIC by a long stretch, but so far, no failures. And if something does fail on a RePCB with a 1ASIC, it's pretty much got to be the ASIC or your soldering. Wasn't the Lynx an LCD panel? Yeah, it was an LCD panel with, let me grab one. LCD panel with a fluorescent backlight. So what you might have misheard when I said all the old ones are not LED backlights is what I'm on about. So they're like the one I showed yesterday on, that's now in the bin, an LED Game Gear LCD. Well, also like this. So new LCDs, they've got an LCD panel there, and in the back of here is an LED backlight. But they're both LCD panels. So here's the Lynx, that's the dust guard. You've still got an LCD panel here. Well, it'll be probably a style of STN panel, but either way, LCD panel for the most part. And on the back here is literally a fluorescent tube. So if we, is this clipped in? I can't remember. To get the back off these, I think it's just a screw here. I can show you inside. Where's the screwdriver gone? There. It's like a proper tease as well. We've probably got a working PC Engine GT sitting on the desk, but you're going to watch me open a Lynx screen now. you're making bombs, yeah, it doesn't look far off. I took stuff like this to CES in Vegas, one of the Christmases, and got pulled because I'd got like basically a battery hanging off a board and a circuit board. It was like a prototype product, and they literally thought it was something that I shouldn't be bringing into the country, but it was just a prototype of some hardware I'd made. You know, I don't think I've ever taken off the separated a Lynx backlight from its front screen. Mustn't have ever done that. Well, I've started, so I'm going to commit to doing this. I don't know what I'm doing because, like I say, I'm pretty sure I must have never removed a Lynx backlight, like separated the screen from the backlight before. I'm just missing a screw. This should not be this difficult to open off. I've got loads of these, so I'm just going to break it off anyway so I can show you. Brute force. Come on, show me the... I'm just going to cut it off in a minute. Show me that backlight. There we go. When in doubt, use force. Come on. Getting flakes of all kinds of metal over my desk, but... yeah, I've cracked the glass of the lens and got glass all over the desk, but I'm still going. I'm committed to this now. We've got the really easy way of figuring out how to take it off, and we've got my way of cutting everything off and getting glass all over my desk. There we go. Right, so, ignoring the shattered glass, there's the LCD that I've smashed in half. That's the Lynx LCD. There we go. That's the diffuser for the fluorescent tube underneath. And, da-da! That was what I was trying to get to. Little baby fluorescent tube. And then, obviously, silver reflective backlight. So that's in a Lynx as well. That's not the way to take them apart. So now we have glass ridden desk. I'm going to leave all the glass on there a minute. Let's see if this works. No. Let's try again. Or was that just turned off? That turned off right as we turned it on. Oh, hang on. Have I just heard noise? Interesting. Why? We had the solution. Why is that not working? Oh, hang on. The bail on the cartridge connector is hanging off. Wow, this is not fun. There's no way we've got two faulty RAM chips. Name of this game, I don't know. It's a Japanese dodgeball. I think it's called something like Super Dodgeball. We can't be this unlucky, surely. Well, there could be two bad chips. That sucks, as if that's not working. Let's try bypassing the power circuit. Stabbing in 5 volts. There's no way we found the fault on one. Well, there is. There could be two faulty chips, basically. It's just our luck. Could be bad solder still. I've definitely got to move where I put that power switch. Right then, 5 volt on here. See, the audio doesn't even sound like it's doing anything though. That's what's throwing me off on this one. The audio sounds literally like it's not even trying to engage anything. Like we're not even getting the speaker pop now. And the current draw is lower. Something seems strangely off on this now. We're not even getting like audio noise. That's madness. Why are we not even getting audio noise? Something's definitely off. Right, let me clear this glass off my desk and let's check. Let's check the soldering. Yeah, you could be dealing with, like, say, revisions of boards here as well. Glass, I probably should put that in something. The best way to get glass off your desk is masking tape. So, sticky masking tape, fold it over, and then that's how you get a bit of glass, typically, and I'll hoover up after, but get your main chunks of glass off with masking tape. I'm going to solder back in. I know it's hanging around, but I'm going to solder back in that screen as well, because I'm more confused as to why don't we have any audio? See, there's something weird. That gives you audio. But, yeah, something, I think we've got another problem here. I think the 5-volt rail isn't outputting now. I think we've found the problem, but we've also probably got the clean power disconnected, as we thought, because now if I inject the 5 volts straight to the output, nothing. I'm going to take the clean power off. I think we've now got, I think we have fixed the issue. Maybe, but I think something's gone wrong with this. Maybe the wire's come off. I'm going to take this off and try and see, because that's still connected. So there's no way that's not connected. So why does applying power to there? I think this isn't working the way I want it to. I think there's something else going on this power circuit that we need to fix, maybe. So do I have... Let's swap the boards around power wise. Let's put the clean power on the green board, and let's solder off this transistor, because I can't find the customers at the minute. It's in a bag somewhere. So that's that one off. Put the clean power on there in a second. Solder this down on here. Because this power circuit, unfortunately, isn't necessarily just the 5 volts. And we don't have a schematic to know the rest of the circuit, so the remaining issue could be related to the fact that this original power circuit doesn't currently work. Like, it might not be the fact there's power there, but something is off on that. Yeah, I've put 7805s on. I've put the smarter thing, which is to put a clean power on. I've seen it myself and done it myself multiple times, but I'm thinking more in this case, is the fact that this original power circuit doesn't work, the fact that this circuit, even if it wasn't outputting 5 volts, needs to send some kind of reassuring signal back to another part of the circuit that says the power's good, even if it isn't. Otherwise the chips are held in reset or something like that. So I want to really get the circuit working, and we can prove, see, this one, I'm beginning to suspect that was just more of a fluke, knowing my luck, that this one failing is coincidence, but I can't see it being coincidence, surely. Right, so output was there. I can't remember where the pins were now. We found ground. I think ground was the top of this. Cap and input was there, wasn't it? So I think input was here. Well, I know input's here. So that means this cap has to be the ground, which is this one. And the output is obviously the big output pad. And then now if we solder, see that with depth perception, that's where you can't see this wire at all. Is that the wire? Yes. So that on there, that on there, that on there. So if this works like we said it should, we should still get game audio. Well, no, this is now screwed, isn't it, with the with that RAM on? But I personally think that was just, nah, it can't be fluke. We've done it over and over, and we've seen it fail twice. This can't be coincidence. That RAM has to be bad. So this won't prove much unless we put the other RAM back on, because in theory this should still be a fault. So that on there. Let's just put the speaker in instead of putting the whole board on for now. And now let's see if we can get that random intermittent boot. So now this is acting just like, obviously, the other board. So I think we're going to have to, just for sanity here, I think I'm going to have to put that RAM back on to prove, without a doubt, that that RAM is bad, so we know. And I'm not just, we haven't just got sort of a fluke there. I want to double check this finding, because we don't want to make a false assumption at this stage and think we've solved something or found something we haven't. So that's with everything back on. See, and now backlight circuit doesn't work with the 5 volt. So maybe that clean power isn't working. So let's now try, or maybe the clean power's died. Let's try injecting the 5 volt straight into the 5 volt output. And you can see that doesn't work. So something wrong with the clean power. Maybe the clean power's died since. Or maybe, like I was saying, the fact that it's not the clean power, because yeah, that's interesting. Why has this worked before then? It can't be the clean power, because we just injected 5 volts after the clean power and it still doesn't work. So let's first put the working RAM back onto this. There's something else going on, and it says power circuit related. So let's prove for sure the RAM was bad. So let's put on. This is the bad RAM. Let's put back on the other one, the working one. But I think the remaining issue is it might not be this RAM, it might be related to the power circuit that didn't work, and we bypassed it. And I've bypassed it a million times this way. It's not working on either board now, that bypass, which is strange. So there could be revisions of the PC Engine GT, which is my suspicion, that the power circuit has to be operational and working, or at least to some degree. And in the case of mine, all I've done is taken off one chip. I think that has to be working to enable power to the rest of the circuit, because now we've got less power draw, no backlight. I think there has to be something else going on this power circuit than just applying 5 volts. That's me guess at the minute. So this is the good RAM going back on. So now the only difference with my fully working board, that's now dead, the only difference from when it was working and dead is now the clean power. That's the only difference. So this is effectively now proving if a system would boot with a clean power, which even though I've done it before, I know it does this exact revision work with a clean power? And it's not necessarily clean power, it's just does it work with 5 volts, because we've also completely bypassed the 5 volt rail and just injected 5 volts in it, so it's not like it's actually the clean power as such. The clean power is likely not the fault, it's the fact that the power circuit we've got power there, we've got 5 volts on that, but we are going to wait a minute for this to cool down. It's too hot to boot up at the minute. Yeah, if the RAM is bad, then you'd guess that work RAM. Well, I presume it's the work RAM. That would be the cause. I'm a little bit sceptical at the minute though. Seems too good to be true, and the fact that the other one still doesn't work, I think there's more than one issue. PS5s I don't really work on, to be honest. I've not got much much info on them. We just really swap the HDMI ports and we don't work on them other than that really, so I couldn't really advise on that, to be honest. Right then, that should be cool enough. Well, everything's now, to be honest, everything's still boiling. Let's give it a good chance to cool down a minute. And where are we at? So yeah, we definitely need to test the theory of booting from the clean power and just from 5 volts to see if it's related. I've got shards of glass up on me as well. I need to hoover up in here now. Glass on the keyboard. Literal chunks of glass everywhere from that Lynx. Open that door as well. It's boiling in here now. Audio out of sync, it could be. To be honest, it probably always has been, if so. Although this is a USB cam straight to the computer and that's a USB audio. It shouldn't realistically be out of sync, but it can be. Or I'm just really good at throwing my voice, and you'll find that's another skill I've got. Right, that should be cool enough. We are hoping for, I don't know, at this stage. Let's just see what happens. Right, so. Oh. Yep. Audio gone for Twitch. It's still on here. Let me try and mute and unmute. So that's a muting and unmuting. Maybe just give it a second, see if it kicks back in. I'll tell you what, let me pull up Twitch on my screen. See if it kicks in. That's a dusty screen now. Right then, there's mine. Do I go backwards? Right, so I've got audio at that bit. Yeah, I think the audio has dropped on Twitch, hasn't it? I don't know what to do about that, to be honest, but I can and unmute it in the stream. I can only think maybe it's just maybe it's just a delay in that stream. Yeah, audio's fine everywhere else, but it's not coming through on Twitch. Give it a minute and see. If not, we'll have to start doing sign language for them. Hopefully it's going to re-kick in anyway for them. Yeah, ventriloquism and board repair, definitely. Shall we put a text to a speech converter on screen? Right then, so yeah, so now if we do that, the next thing I wanted to try is bypass the clean power altogether. See, and that doesn't work. That should work. So injecting 5 volts straight to here doesn't work. It isn't booting. So there's got to be something else going on. Let's try then. This is interesting. We want minimum boot. That's what we want. Yeah, the PC Engine's probably killed the audio. Let's remove this, remove that. Let's try bridging this. Don't do this at home, because this is a surefire way to kill your console if you accidentally inject more than 5 volts. Right, so complete bypass. Input and output both need to see 5 volts. There's no other magic going on, so that's no power supply. Booting fine. So let's use that as the way we boot these consoles from now on. Which means we don't need the red power lead anymore. Just eliminates one other thing that could be wrong. On here, let's do that. So they're gone. Let's from now on boot without power, so it can't be a power related issue. Let's take off this now, we don't need this. Anybody on Twitch got the audio back yet, or is it still just, well, I suppose you can't hear me. I can put in chat, somebody no, I'm going to have to put chat myself, I'm the only one with multi-stream. I'll have to ask in chat if they can hear me yet. I suppose if they can hear me, they're going to answer. Is anyone in Twitch being able to hear me? Big Bro would reply if he could, I'm sure. So I'm guessing audio's still gone for them. But like I say, I don't really know what to do about that, because I can't stop the stream as such, because it just stops it for everybody. But that's not very good on Twitch's part, if so. Where did I get the small monitor from? Probably just Amazon. I got another one well before it was actually popular. People selling it on TikTok now. I can't even remember the make of it. But similar to this one, just not quite as good. Hey, audio back? Maybe, maybe not. Let me know if you can hear it. Yeah, Twitch audio dead. Yep. Not sure what we can do on that. Working on all others. No way to restart one stream. I guess I could just end the stream and start it back up. Could end full stream, but probably almost done. Right, so we've bypassed power on that. Maybe we've got this working then. Who knows? But no, I'm pretty sure the RAM was bad. But now the next step will be putting that bad RAM back on this board, and then yeah, I think they've tried refreshing a few times. I've personally opened up, although Twitch is really quiet on when I open it up on the PC side. Let me just open it back up on my Twitch. just to be sure. Click to unmute. Oh, did I just have it on mute? Surely not. No, unmute. I'll tell you what, I wonder if there's two streams. Let me turn up my volume there and volume there. Settings. Try quality, maybe 1080p. No, I can't hear that. If I go back in the stream. Yeah, so back in the stream works. Go forward in the stream. None on that. Let's try. Where's settings? I'm going to try. Quality. Let's try as low quality as it is. Let's try 480p. No, it's literally. It's lost the audio feed, hasn't it, basically? Yeah, I don't think there's much we can do about that on the Twitch. I don't think we can pause. Let me just type it in. Restream, or not restream, Streamlabs. Streamlabs, pause, stream. The only thing I can do is maybe disable the mic in... tell you what, let me go to... let me hide live overlays. Bring it back in that way, maybe. See if that's then working. Because that'll literally disable the audio completely and then re-add it. But I don't think that's the case because I think it's something to do with the stream. Yeah, you can't pause live stream, but you can take several actions to create a pause event for viewers. The only option we've really got is to stop the stream and start it again, because we do have 7 people on Twitch. I don't know, let's just, well, let me reopen Twitch and see if it's come back, but I doubt that'll have brought it back. Click to unmute. Right, so if we go back,
This one.
that one was working. Forward to live. Yeah, it's lost the stream. Yeah, so that's yep, so I think it's just the stream. So if you guys are invested, I'm just going to end the stream and start it back up, just so Twitch get the viewers. So I'll just put capitals, restarting stream. So we may lose people, we may not. We're on to the verge of figuring this out though. Although we don't have RAM on here, we need to put RAM on. But yeah, I'll pause the stream. Well, I'll restart stream. Gonna grab a coffee and then come back on in a second. So I'll be back on in a minute and hopefully Twitch is working for everybody. And everybody on TikTok and that, ideally jump back